being in a tech ecosystem, we don't have a lot of women. For me to be here is proof that women can do it, women can be leaders, and I hope to inspire other women, especially young African women, to be bold and courageous, follow their passions, and when they're offered that seat at the table, to take it and take the front seat at changing the African narrative.
Since I joined Impact Africa Network, my thinking has really been expanded. I now for sure believe that if I put my mind and time into something, I can bring life-changing ideas into fruition.
The culture at IAN encourages continual learning. This makes someone to source for outlets for learning, opportunities for growth in order to continually ensure that they do the best at their job. Also working with Mark, who has this great vision for changing the African narrative. He wants to take us on that journey with him, pushes you to the limit, pushes you to want to be better.
My thinking has changed from looking for problems to being a solution provider. That way, I will stop worrying and actually do something.
I really enjoy being a leader and at the same time being a student. At Impact Africa Network, there's a lot of continuous learning and development. So it gives you this hunger for knowledge. It pushes you to be the best possible version of yourself, because you cannot change the African narrative being anything less.
At Impact Africa Network, we bet on the women. We believe women are much more effective at leading and nurturing complex people-centric systems, and startups are the quintessential people-centric systems of our day.
As the Women of Impact Africa Network, we will be hosting a live cast series with global female leaders and change makers, having conversations with the intent of inspiring a new generation of female leaders just like ourselves. If you or someone you know should be part of this conversation, we would love to host you. Talk to us.
You can also be a change maker by helping us create more leadership opportunities for women by donating today. IAN is a registered U.S. nonprofit charitable entity under Section 501c3.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Season 2. It's such a joy to have you guys join us today. Thank you for making time. My name is Joy Ndinda. I work for Impact Africa Network under the fundraising department as the donor relations manager. So welcome to Season 2. I'm pretty excited. We had a really great run in Season 1, 13 episodes in 13 fantastic episodes where we learned a lot from the different guests. We took a 3-month break and now we are back. This is the first episode of the second season, and this broadcast is brought to you by Impact Africa Network. Impact Africa Network is a startup studio in Nairobi. Our mission is, at Impact Africa Network, our mission is to ensure young talented Africans can participate in the digital transformation of Africa as creators and owners. We do this by providing 12-month innovation fellowships to recent college graduates, where they work on well-vetted ideas under the guidance of a leadership team and a mentor network. The goal is to develop innovation leaders and launch startups. So at Impact Africa Network, we bet on women leadership. A core part of our startup strategy is built around prioritizing female leadership. As I speak to you right now, 70% of the leadership at Impact Africa Network is women. And so I would like to introduce my co-host for today, one of the female leaders at Impact Africa Network, Damaris. I would let her introduce herself. Yes, Damaris, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Joy. My name is Damaris Kongien. As mentioned, I'm the PR and communications lead at Impact Africa Network. And I'm
Damaris, sorry to interrupt. Your audio is a bit low. If you could, if you could fix your mic or speak louder.
How's that?
Better.
Can you guys hear me now? Better.
Yes, but it could be more louder. But yeah, sure. Carry on.
Okay, I'll try to speak as loud as possible. Okay, so yeah, my name is Damaris Kongin. I'm the Public Relations and Communications Lead at Impact Africa Network, and we are thrilled to have you today here for our season 2. As Joy has mentioned, we've run 13 exciting episodes. Out of those episodes, we hosted a variety of women, from entrepreneurs to angel investors. We had women in tech, women in engineering, and it's been exciting to see just how much leadership is out there in the world. And we're here to inspire young women. We have really invested in women leadership, and this majorly stemmed from our CEO's thesis that women are much more effective at leading and nurturing complex people-centric systems. And we believe that startups and entrepreneurs and businesses are the quintessential systems of our day. When you look at, he actually wrote like 2 very interesting blogs that you might be interested to read, and maybe our team could pin it here in the chat. We had Power to Our Women, and he speaks of very interesting stories of instances in his life that he has seen these leadership attributes manifest in his life through women, how that has also inspired him to come and do the same within Impact Africa Network. And as Joy has mentioned, we've had 70% of our women leading projects, leading the startups that we are creating. We have Jenga School, which was our very first startup. We have Esther Mumbi, who's our who became the first lady who's the operations manager for Jenga School. And as you can see, as at now, we've had 42 enrolled students. We've had 14 to 16 graduates, and it's been very impressive to just see it take off in a period of 1 year. And we're scaling from here. So it's very exciting to see the amazing things that women are doing in this space. Also, when you look at most of our projects, for instance, we have Kuza, we have systematic entrepreneurship, we have women leading those positions, and they're able to drive these projects from engineering to marketing. And it's very impressive to see that the space is changing, that more women are getting these positions, and the more we share these stories, we get to inspire more women to also fill up space, to not be afraid to take up space in the places they work and the places that they're given an opportunity to lead, to just step up and do it because we are capable. I'll just hand over to Joy to talk more about this thesis. Yeah, thank you.
All right. So as Damaris has mentioned, it's been really exciting being given a responsibility and a seat at the table at such a young age, right? And as we continue to develop in Impact Africa Network, we continue to bring in more women. You've had the story of Esther, who was the first lady, and now we have 7 more in the studio, and we have more even innovation fellows or innovation leaders, if you may, who are working on the different projects. So I'm going to cue in a small video of a testimonial from one of our ladies who is working on a project called Kuza. Kuza is a financial well-being project for the Gen Z, and it will be coming to you soon. Yes, the video.
First and foremost, just being a woman at IIN is an empowering thing. When I was coming in, there wasn't that feeling that I am disadvantaged by being a woman in this particular place, and that first and foremost is a good thing. But then also I've watched even the men at IIN rally behind the Power to Our Women initiative that is designed to inspire the next generation of female leaders, and that in itself is just mind-blowingly inspiring, I'd say. And so I feel like the women are at the heart of IIN. We are just as equally trusted with projects as the men are, and I love it.
All right, so I am gonna have to apologize. Our guest is a bit late today, but even as we wait for our guest, Dr. Jacqui, we can help recap what happened in season 1. Like I mentioned, we had 13 fantastic episodes in season 1. one of my favorite episodes was the first one. The first one, because it's something new, you don't know what to expect, and we got to learn a lot. Our first guest was Nora Denzel. She is a Silicon Valley veteran. She's been working on Silicon Valley projects for about 30 years. And so she honored us by being our first guest. And I think one of the things I learned from her was resilience. And she brought out one of the things we as women like to undermine, which is speaking up. She told her story about the way she was always the quietest woman in the room. She's, first of all, a tech engineer, and she was always the quietest woman in the room, never telling anybody, what is going on or what project she's working on or the good things she's doing in the background. So she just sat there quietly. And that did not lead her anywhere until the day she decided to just speak up and claim her seat at the table. So I think one that was like the breaking point as we started the season, and it was very challenging for all of us women, wherever we are, and it's something I keep on hearing being echoed time and time again. That as women we just sit back and work and work and work, but never speak about the good things we are doing, the results we are achieving. And that means we seem like we're not moving the needle. We never get, people giving us opportunities because they don't know what we are capable of. So I would invite you guys to tell me what you learned from the first season. And for anyone who might have missed those episodes, we have them on our webpage. You just need to go to Impact Africa Network /PTOW, which is short form for Power to Our Women. So interact with us on the comment section on YouTube, on Twitter. Let us know what were your highlights for season 1. And yes, Damaris, you can tell us what were your highlights.
I think for me, Nora was a very interesting guest. For me, what really, really stood out when she mentioned that you're a leader even before you get the title. So I think most times we tend to wait to be told what to do. You see an instance that you could easily fix, but you would hold on and not, and you could not, like, you don't step up to take up that responsibility on your own and just drive whatever needs to be driven. And so much of leadership qualities has been attached to a title. I think mostly, especially in the structures that we've had in different organizations previously. But as at now, I think from that episode, like, just Nora highlighted that, and it really spoke to me. And it has really helped me also to just improve on myself as a leader and stepping up in places where you don't have to be, say, seen, but as long as you've gotten it done, like, that's the best part about it, just being that person who offers a hand. Yeah, I think that was my biggest highlight. We can't wait to see your comments and feedback regarding that.
All right. So as we wait on our guest, sorry, Damaris, as we wait on our guest, we have a small surprise for you. I don't know if you guys remember my co-presenter from last season. Her name is Phyllis Mburu. She is the head of donor relations at Impact Africa Network. And I just want to invite her on screen to share with us one of the highlights she had from last season. Hi, Phyllis.
Hi Joy, hi Dama. I hope my audio is fine.
Hello.
It's always a blessing in disguise when these things happen to us. When our guest is caught up in something else, it gives us an opportunity to also have in-house conversation as to what Part to Our Women has been to us. I have been part of this very closely. I still am. And this was really an encouragement from our CEO. And if you're asking me about my highlight was actually getting to do it, having the opportunity to, first of all, to get into contact or to get access to women who are miles away, both in distance, experience, age, you can name it all, even class, to actually spare an hour to come here and speak to us and we learn from it. For me, that was the highlight of season 1, the fact that actually happens and people do people out there in the world actually want to give back and have something to give back that they would, was also a challenge for me locally. As what are we doing as myself, but also what we've seen as our culture to ensure that we are giving back, and not just something very general, but you're very what is it, targeted, and you're very specific in what input you're putting into someone else's life. Yeah, pretty much that was my highlight of season 1. It took a lot of it challenged me, it challenged my guts. It challenged my guts to reach out to different global business leaders, and you get to realize these people, it's not that they're geniuses and we are not. They just have certain sets of beliefs, of habits, of things that they have engineered in their lives that have made them successful. One of them being willing to learn and being willing to be taught, but also being bold, which is a thing that Nora really highlighted. Being bold to talk about your own, what you know, right? Because people will never know what you carry until you put it out there. Yeah, pretty much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just to, throw you under the bus or under the water, whichever you prefer, as 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 a lady, and having led all these wonderful conversations and having interacted with all these women from outside of Africa, right? So what would you challenge us now as the local people, let's say as women in Africa and as women in Nairobi trying to make a difference? What can you challenge us, or what can you give us to be the challenge of the future as we, go on in our endeavors?
Number one is that everyone has something to give back. The difference between, and this is just my observation, people who actually put themselves is sometimes is you believe you don't have, but the truth is you actually have something to give because you've learned something. Number two is to actually take the step because you learn by teaching. One of the things I noticed, even as we spoke to these women with all their years of experience, the more they spoke to us, the more they reinforced some of their own beliefs, thoughts, and experiences that were positive, right? So those are the two things I would tell myself, I would tell women in our African context, and for us, Kenya. Yes.
Right. And I'm just reminded of something one of our guests said. Her name is Lauren Hendricks. Lauren Hendricks really challenged us as women to, stop fighting each other and start fighting and championing for the positions out there and championing for each other and for our continent. So I think that is very, very, very profound. As I don't know if it's a Kenyan thing or an African thing. We are always so caught up in the office kind of politics, and we forget that this is for Africa. It's beyond Phyllis. It's beyond
Me and
Damaris.
you. Yeah.
This is for Africa. We are doing this for Africa and for the generations to come. And I don't think for a moment we should ever forget that and just be selfish to focus on ourselves. Yes, Damaris, you had a question?
No, just an addition. I think also with all the sessions we had in season 1, previously, I don't think we had envisioned reaching out to these women and all that. But I think you'll never know if you don't ask. And the moment we started asking and asking them why they even said yes to us, we realized we have something very powerful. We have a very powerful program that we are running that really, when you talk to them about how you're trying to change the world that you live in, everything that you're trying to do to just get yourselves out of that position, it inspires people and they feel instantly, ready to help. As opposed, and I think our CEO Mark keeps saying, Africa is not looking for handouts. We are just looking for a hand up. So what people have already learned across the world, we are here, we are ready to learn. And I think that moment for us to just go asking has really brought us a long way. And it has really given us confidence to, keep asking for help. And also that's one of the things that was very prominent in the different conversations with the women that we were speaking to. They kept saying, don't sit back with your problem. You need to just, step out, ask for help. You get unstuck faster. Someone has already probably figured it out. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. So I think those are also some of the nuggets. I can see the comment section. We have one of our attendees who's saying, Evelyn is saying, highlight was Lisa's skit. She remembers her talking about the 5 most important people in her life. And there was the board of directors, mentor, sponsor, connector, close friend, and her elaboration on the role of these people blew her mind. It really does take a village. So yeah, that episode was also very interesting. You'd see that she has different people in the different areas of her life. But what was really that stood out was that she allowed people to be like to be able to influence her to be a better person. I think I've also had this conversation about people having life coaches, and I actually start to think that it's actually very important. It actually helps you to just understand yourself, unpack some of the things that you keep in your head, and once you're able to visualize them better, you're able to execute better, and you're able to achieve your dreams. You have people holding your hand. Yeah, so I think those were some of the exciting episodes. Maybe Joy, you can pick others up from our comment section. We also have Grace. Maybe Joy, you can take that up. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Damaris. Grace is highlighting that she loved how Nora Denzel talked about her learning journey, and she's saying, she learned to walk into every conversation being ready to take a learning trip. Yes, I remember that very well, Grace. And like one of our producers in the show, Eric, likes to say he's going on a learning and a listening tour. So she challenged us every time to go on a listening or learning tour. Just don't always be the one talking all the time. Absorb knowledge. And like we are always being constantly challenged. It's 2021. This is not the year to know one thing. You're supposed to know more than one thing in this century. So I really liked that challenge. And one of the other guests, Patricia Njenga, she really challenged us to build community as women. Like don't be an island. Don't survive on your own. We could really benefit from building a community that supports each and every one of us. And now, having reflected on what happened in season 1, maybe it's time to highlight what we have in store for season 2. um, and before I call on Phyllis to talk more about that, one of the things we are looking forward to in season 2 is having really, really interactive sessions. So it will not just be us always talking. Please engage us on the comment section as we go on through the season. And one good thing is we will have gifts for our audiences. So the more you engage us, the more we will surprise you with a gift. The gifts will vary from show to show. So we can't wait to interact with you and hopefully, hint, hint, meet some of you in person. Yes. And yes, Phyllis can tell us more about what we have for season 2.
Yeah, season 2 is quite exciting. A few lessons we learned from season 1 is that we can actually focus more on having thematic conversations, themed and not general, that people can relate with, depending with where they'll be listening from, on what standard career interest they'll be listening from. But all in all, the heart and soul of the show of Power to Women is really in and around ensuring that we are building capable women in Africa, because they've actually learned and listened to other women who've done it, not because they were any special, because they learned. Like Joy said, we want to make it interactive. We want to make it something that's not just about us, but it's also about empowering our society. Yes, Dama, you look like you want to say something. You're unmuted.
Oh, it's okay. I just wanted to mention that we had heard from some of you some of the topics that you would have loved to hear from women engineering to mental health. So this is an opportunity to also drop some of those topics here in the comments. And yeah, we'll reach out to those guests. If you have exciting guests in mind, this is also an opportunity to just shout them out, and we'll look into that here.
Fantastic. Again, I'm going to say this again. It's a blessing in disguise when this happens. We apologize again for not having our guest. She must have been caught up in something. We'll find out. But we're hoping to reschedule this with her for all our audience that were eagerly waiting to hear from her. We're hoping that we can get some other time. But we have more exciting guests for you. And you can continue to interact with us on our website. You can watch our past episodes and all the fun we had doing that, but also all the learning that we did. Yes, I would like to say goodnight for today. Hopefully, not hopefully, next time we'll be here with a guest. Yeah.
If I may just interrupt, wonderful surprise that our guest has made it just when we were taking the last breath, the last breath of the show. So it's not good night yet until we see our guests. So we have Dr. Jacqui on the show, and I'm just going to introduce her briefly. So welcome, Dr. Jacqui, to the show. Before you joined in, we were just having a chit chat with our audience. And so we've really almost run out of time. In fact, we were almost bidding them goodbye. But yes, so ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching, our today's guest is Dr. Jacqui Taylor, as you may see on your screen. She is the CEO and founder of FlyingBinary. She will tell us more about what FlyingBinary is all about. She's one of the top 20 most powerful UK entrepreneurs. She's earned a lot of global recognition, but I will not go into it. She is an expert advisor to the G20 members on the future of digital economies, and also an advisor to the UN on the UN 2030 plan. So welcome to the show, Dr. Jacqui. How are you today?
I'm great. Huge apologies to everybody. We've had an international situation, and I've had to, it's not normally me that has to step in, but this was more of a serious one, so I have had to. I've given everybody homework, and so as soon as we're finished, I'm back. I absolutely, I'm so apologetic for being late to the arrangements. It was not something I could predict. But hopefully putting the whole world on hold to get in here is good enough. And I brought a gift. So hopefully that is my apologies made, and hopefully that helps make up for the fact that I'm late. So delight to be here, Joy and Damaris. Really, really delight to be here.
All right, welcome to the show. I think we'll just go straight into it. And I think our first question would be, we're just curious to understand what inspired you to say yes to our conversation today.
Well, there's a number of things. The first one I want to say is you, Joy. You were a big factor in me saying yes. You're a great ambassador for what you all do. And what we all do as entrepreneurs is important, but purpose is important to me. So I'm a social entrepreneur, and I've had positive impact across half the world's population. But it's really important. I also work with purposeful entrepreneurs as well. And you mentioned something. Now, please excuse me. I've done a practice on my tech check, but I don't speak Swahili. But Joy mentioned to me that you're using chini ya maji to signal your change. And that was a really important point as well, because FlyingBinary has created this new empathy economy for 180 nations. We've done that in plain sight, and we've been hidden by the technology we engineer. And I personally have an affinity with the ocean. So as part of my give back and what is a personal passion for me, I help rescue the loggerhead turtles, which are the last prehistoric mammals that are still on Earth. And so what Joy presented as to what you're all doing resonated strongly with me personally. But there's another factor in changing the future digital economies for 180 nations. The governments will play their part. That's assured. And the 2030 plan for the UN is built on the back of that. But I've personally committed to directly helping 1 million entrepreneurs to move from what you're all using now, which is a sharing economy model, and to grow your businesses in this new empathy economy, which is the future digital economies. So as part of that commitment, I start with a yes when it's a request from networks. And then if the entrepreneurs are ready to move on, I'll connect them in directly to the empathy economy and the global change it brings. So even though I might say yes to something like this, you don't necessarily get the next step. So obviously big thanks to Joy and the team, but the next step I've no hesitation in passing on to you. And that's basically, I've created some technology that we use to get everybody access to the empathy economy, which I'll go on to explain. We're using the Clubhouse platform in a completely different way. I've not checked with you whether you're using it or not, but for those of us that are building the change for the world we all want to live in, Clubhouse is one of our tools. And these are my top 10 tips to use Clubhouse as a platform to build your empathy economy business, to grow your business. What I always say, because counterterrorism and all of that work is my daily work, is do that in your favorite browser. If you don't have a favorite one, I recommend Chrome. And I think the team are going to socialize that link, that URL link I've just given in your chat. So you should be able to see that. And the reason for Chrome is because we have personal involvement at FlyingBinary, so that Chrome is a cyber safe browser. That's another part of the empathy economy, being cyber safe. And basically what that does, it doesn't just give me out top 10 tips for Clubhouse, but it also gives you access to the empathy economy and all the resources I'll continue to release. So the thing I need to say now, I need you all to take a deep breath, because I need to tell you, welcome to November 2024, because the plan I created for the G20 and the work I've done for the UN was scheduled to complete, if we managed to do it, by November 2024. But that actually was put into action across 180 nations at the end of June in 2021. So take what I've given you there. I suggest you use it for your business. I will release other resources as we go forward, but we're now talking everything we now talk about. We're now in November 2024 and how we grow our business. So that's my answer as to why.
Thank you so much, Jacqui. Your apology is definitely accepted, especially because we've seen you've taken your time to do your homework with the Swahili, and yes, you did not fail the assignment. So it's also exciting to see you. Yeah, it's exciting to see you just step out of your comfort zone, trying to fit into this as well. So thank you also for the gift, and we are really grateful for you saying yes to us. We believe that you have quite the experience and resources that would be quite useful, especially also to even our engineering team. Maybe you can just tell us about FlyingBinary, help our audience to understand what exactly you do. How has that journey been as an entrepreneur and founder?
Yeah, so FlyingBinary, I've got multiple exits from multiple companies. FlyingBinary was formed directly in the worst recession in living memory, the financial crisis. And in the midst of that global crisis, myself and my co-founder, who's also my husband, we're both engineers, and 249 other founders got together in a car park in London, in a place we call Tech City that doesn't actually exist. And from that day, when we had zero digital economy in the UK, and that was the 12th of March 2009, we now have almost 6 million companies. 99% of the UK economy is entrepreneurs now, and we generate, as an entrepreneurial group across the UK, 50% of the UK's GDP. And that's the point that I say to you, standing on the shoulders of giants. The entrepreneurial journey is always one we don't expect, because we're never born ready to be an entrepreneur. We always step into our own power as part of that journey. But I've been on that journey and unemployable. That's how I call what I do. I'm an entrepreneur first, last, and ever. Unemployable in any other mechanism for over 37 years. And my journey, I often think, is very interesting because it's a different one, but there are many factors in this journey that you will experience, or if you're really lucky, yet to experience, because all it's about is about challenge. And I passed on to Joy earlier this afternoon was, one of the things we are as entrepreneurs is we need to be agile, because the world is not going to orchestrate to our plan. So I talk about goals in concrete, what we're attempting to do, they're in concrete. We don't change them unless we have a need. And I did that in 2016. And we'll talk about that a bit later, I'm sure. But plans have to be in sand. And you've got great leaders here, because they took that, I can't make it, I have an international situation I have to deal with, and it has to be me, and I'm going to get there as soon as I can. But to give you some of the points on my journey, I received an honorary doctorate of science for my work across the world and the positive impact I've had across the world. And I took that as a speech to graduating PhDs in the engineering field for the university that awarded me that. And these were the things that I want to tell you about, that they said, if that's what an entrepreneur impact, and I said, that's what an impact entrepreneur is, I'm in. And so these were the key things that they picked out of my story and said, wow, that's a variation on my story, but I can understand how that was important. So if you'll bear with me, I'll go through what they told me. So what they said was, the fact that I lost my opportunity to go to university was when I was graduating from school, was because my mum actually died at the point I hadn't taken my exams, and she died when I was 16, and I needed to keep my family together. There's many people I've met on my journey who have put family first and ambitions as an entrepreneur last or next. And so I had to find a new path. When life gets in your way, you go over it, round it, through it, under it, but you don't give up on your contribution to the world. And then I graduated. Eventually I got back to that, and I graduated as the only female out of my cohort from my degree. And I had solved a societal problem in the aerospace engineering industry. And the first thing that happened to me when I got back to the company who had sponsored me to study was I lost my job. And the reason I lost my job was I was female. And as an aerospace engineer, the first company that was going to invest in this new aircraft that was going to solve the noise pollution in our cities, the first time the aerospace industry had considered society with what it did, was a Middle Eastern company. And as a female, I was no longer acceptable to lead that project. So pretty mad about that, quite frankly, pretty mad. Didn't get mad, just got even. Just didn't get bitter, got better. And essentially, I volunteered, you may decide whether that was a good volunteer or not, to take on the computer department in the engineering company and find out why what they were producing was not what we needed on the engineering discipline. And quite frankly, I didn't let any software ship for 6 weeks because there was no engineering discipline. And in fact, the company led the charge in the aerospace industry to create the discipline we now know today as software engineering, because there was no engineering principles built around it. And so, you know, that's a real whistle-stop tour of my journey and as a founder and as an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur. But the one thing that everybody tells me that stands out by that story is the only thing that stands in the way of your dreams and a bright future for the countries of Africa is you as entrepreneurs, because whatever there is that you have to overcome is necessary for that journey. So hopefully that answers your question, Damaris.
It actually does. Quite, you've actually answered it quite comprehensively. And I think from what you've just told us, what has really stood out for me is that resilience and how you speak about entrepreneurship. Like for you, that's the beginning and it's the end and it's the solution. And all you need to do is to find your way around it. How do you engineer around it and create solutions that work? And I've admired your agility, despite even having been kicked out from your position. That was not it. You didn't look down upon yourself and say,
oh no, I think we've lost Damaris for a minute there. She was experiencing quite heavy rainfall, as she had told me earlier. But yes, Dr. Jacqui, I really admire your spirit and how you've really gotten back from your, the things that would have set you back. But now you're one of the most sought after tech people in the world, and especially in the field of AI and the Internet of Things. So I'm just seeking to understand, and also on behalf of our audience, you say standing on the shoulders of giants. That is something you really believe in and something you really, are passionate about. What would you say it means to you, and how can young innovators take advantage of it?
It's a great question. I mean, when we originally talked about this, I was actually going to present on this, but I much prefer the conversational way we're doing this. But I sat with my team in the Great Hall in the Royal Society, which is in London. If you ever get an opportunity to visit, it's the home of science in the UK. It was founded with 200 leaders that effectively they met in a coffee shop, and they created a place, and offline, because we had no online then. And I was invited by Sir Tim Berners-Lee, who created the World Wide Web, on the 12th of March 2009, which I previously mentioned. That was the 20th anniversary of him creating the World Wide Web. And he told us a story about how it happened. If you'd like to know, then ask me the question. But the key thing was, what he said was, in 20 years, only 18% of the world is online. I clearly don't know how to do this, but all of you here are making impact. There was 200 of us across the world. I need your help. And he gave us all a mission in that hall. And it's a great hall. If you ever get to the Royal Society, it's the great hall in that. So there's 200 of us sat there. We didn't know any of the other people there. And he gave us a mission to help the world understand how to connect our own humanity with our own truth. That was his mission. That's why he did what he did in CERN, connecting those two protocols to give us that point of connection from our humanity point of view. And as I'm sat in that hall, there's a 12-foot painting of Sir Isaac Newton, one of the world's greatest scientists in that hall, one of the UK's greatest scientists, and a personal hero of mine, mainly because I'm rubbish at physics. And I have some fantastic physicists I work with. I actually work at the Newton Institute in Cambridge in the UK, mainly because I don't get it, but I know what to do with it. And so I accepted that mission, and I founded FlyingBinary on the mission that mattered to me. So I've got let me just calculate this. I've got 8 years of work prior to founding FlyingBinary that was dedicated to this one mission: inclusion, using technology to create inclusion. And what I mean by that is leaving no one behind. And that picture of Isaac Newton has inspired me, and it's the reason that I work in the Newton Institute in the UK in Cambridge. But I came across, as part of that work, the expression standing on the shoulders of giants. And it's actually a letter written by Sir Isaac Newton to his rival in 1676, 2 years before the Royal Society I sat in to found FlyingBinary was even created. It was part of those conversations and disagreements from people who were in the same discipline who did not agree, but were preparing to change the paradigm we all worked in, because where they were was not good enough. The world they wanted to create, they wanted to be part of that creation. And so there's a very famous painting which is in the Museum of Modern Art in New York, which I absolutely adore. And it's a picture of Sir Leon standing on the shoulders of Orion, from blind Orion, searching for the rising sun. The artist is Nicholas Poussin. And since that day, the 12th of, since May in 2009, when I said, okay, inclusion, leave no one behind, I knew the answer was building deep technology to deliver that. I knew that was it. But what I didn't know, but I hazarded a guess, disagreed with Tim Berners-Lee at the time, how dare I, but I hazarded a guess that it wasn't the millennials that were yet to have influence across the web that would drive that inclusion. It would be Generation Z. It would be you all. And today, which was the reason like my G20 plan, you influence 40% of the economic spend across the world. Now that's in a G20 context, but you also are influences elsewhere in the world. It's just that I have that data for the G20. And since January 2019, I made an announcement at Davos, where I made a speech at Davos. And I said, as of today, FlyingBinary no longer builds technology for Generation Z for you all, which of course was an outcry across the world. How dare you, you're abandoning us, where do you think you're going? And my point was, I need to calculate how much influence you already have, but you're near tipping point. And so, you know, in 2020, 40% of the economic spend, just keep doing what you're doing, you're there. But Gen Alpha, who are 17 to 7 today, they require something completely different. And one of the things I want to say out of this particular piece and explaining why standing on the shoulders of giants is so important to me and how I use it, how I used it to create the alternative to the sharing economy, is you cannot use a Generation Y plan, a millennial plan, the sharing economy, and expect to be successful today. And for most Gen Z entrepreneurs between the ages of 28 and 18, they don't want to either. And so what the empathy economy is about is bringing out the unheard voices across the world using the web as a mechanism. And one set of unheard voices the world has yet to hear from, but absolutely needs to create the world we want to live in, is the voices of you all, the voices of the African nations and the work you're doing. So that's why standing on the shoulders of giants is important to me. But I do need to stress, lots of this is already done. So it's not, you know, what Tim Berners-Lee always says to when he talks about me is she hacked the jungle down. I wouldn't ever hack a jungle down. I know that's important to our ecosystems, but she hacked the jungle down. And okay, the super highway might not be here yet, but you have, you know, she had nothing and she did what she did. You don't have nothing. And so, you know, the reality of it is you have the contribution of the unheard voices as yet of the African nations to contribute, but stand on the shoulders of giants that I'm standing on, and that looks like you can do it. It's just a question of how soon you want to get there.
You're absolutely right. We have to, build on the knowledge of those who have come before us, and see the African continent go even further in
Yes.
our economy and also in our innovation. And I can see we are almost out of time, so I'm going to ask a question closely related to what you've just been saying about standing on the shoulders of giants. So what next for innovation, and what will make the businesses of our time successful.
So, whatever anybody tells you, this is the message I want to get through today. The G7 nations signed technology declarations in June 2021 to usher in the empathy economy that I founded, because that's not able to be done at G20 for a number of reasons. That is the direction of travel for the UN, but it's not going to be soon. But the G7 have taken on the task of creating that economy. And the reason I'm late today is I'm creating the principles that the global technology industry has to use to underpin that declaration. So what I want to say to you is, if you're using any technology you don't own, you'll be affected by that G7 change. If you do own the technology, but you haven't changed it since July 2021, you'll also be affected. Because essentially what the empathy economy ushers in is a new social contract, new trust models that do two things. They don't cost us the earth, because from a UN point of view, that's the whole point of what we're doing. And you'll need to be inclusive to be successful. And that business growth will not use the social platforms. So that's equivalent of dropping a bigger rock in the pond for you all than I did at Davos in January 2019, because the G7 is 40% of the economic spend across the world, yes, but it's also the place that all the social platforms largely are built, and they're all going to change underneath you. So free is not only not going to be free, which has never been free, but it's actually also not going to be dependable anymore either.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing, Jacqui. We are sadly at a few minutes past 7:30. Sorry. We would really like to just thank you for all that you've shared with us today. I think we had also one of the questions about what do you think about the innovations of the future, what would be successful for businesses, but I think you've already tackled that because you've really spoken deeply about it. We'd just like to mention to our crowd that this event was brought to you by Impact Africa Network. We are a non-profit startup studio that's committed to changing the African narrative. We truly believe that women are critically important to this mission, and we are committed to providing leadership opportunities in the startups that we are creating. To support our work, you could join our micro donations program, for as little as $30 a month and be part of this exciting movement towards changing the African narrative. But thank you so much for joining us all today. We would really love to see you again for our second episode. You've been a lovely crowd, and we hope you have learned a bit from this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
First and foremost, just being a woman at IIN is an empowering thing. When I was coming in, there wasn't that feeling that I am disadvantaged by being a woman in this particular place, and that first and foremost is a good thing. But then also I've watched even the men at IIN rally behind the Power to Our Women initiative that is designed to inspire the next generation of female leaders, and that in itself is just mind-blowingly inspiring, I'd say. And so I feel like the women are at the heart of IIN. We are just as equally trusted with projects as the men are, and I love it.